Welcome to Hochoka Podcast.
Ever wonder what that kid thinks? We've got someone with us here today who was that kid. Hello, Metakiepi, and welcome to Hochoka here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School's campus. I'm Scott Wooster, today's Hochoka host. We're glad you've joined our circle for part 3 of a 3-part series called Detour Home, which covers various perspectives on residential living. Today we talk with Sean Milner. Sean is an alumnus of the Baptist Children's Village. He came to the ministry at a young age with his 3 brothers and 1 sister and remained there for 18 years. He's the only former child care resident to serve as executive director of the Baptist Children's Village and the only one nationwide among all Southern Baptist child care agencies. Sean, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Scott. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So we talked in the last part. We had student Basil Eaglestar in here with us, and I thought we got to have a really good conversation with him.
It was great.
Yeah. And you I think have such, you have to bring a rich perspective to what you do now as executive director because you were one of those kids. I introduced you as that kid, and you were that kid at one point.
Right.
So for our teachers, for our house parents, for the folks who work with the school here, the counselors, and even the parents of these kids, what message would you have for us, for the direct care staff, as somebody who's seen it from both sides now?
Scott, what I like direct care staff and other staff to know is, hey, embrace and celebrate your role. Now, we're all human, and we all like to be thanked, and we all want to be appreciated. And in the work that everybody is in, that can look a whole lot sometimes like a thankless job.
Mm-hmm.
It can look like I'm not mattering, nobody's responding, and it can look that way. And sometimes we can get a little depressed or maybe even hard on ourselves because we're human. And what I like to tell people is just, number one, refocus yourself and embrace your role. You've come here to serve children.
Mm-hmm.
And you are doing that. Embrace that. Remember that. That's who you're actually working for, is children. So if we can refocus and celebrate that you're actually accomplishing what you came to do.
Right.
And that might help with the thanklessness, because I'm going to tell you, as a former resident, they're grateful.
Yeah.
And you might not get to see it till they're old enough and mature enough to be able to express it in those terms.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they get to deal with some of the traumas that they're already going through, and they can focus on an outward gratefulness. And so you will see it when they grow up, they get older. I still see a lot of my former house parents. We still love them and do what we can for them. But you don't always see it when the child's there. So I would just like everybody to know that, yes, they are grateful. It is rewarding. But sometimes you have to deal with it, refocus on, hey, why am I here? I bet nobody came to St. Joe to be thanked.
Right.
I guarantee it. Nobody
Yeah.
came here
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But we're human. So refocus on why you're here and celebrate the fact with others you're accomplishing what you came here to do.
Right. I like that. So when you get stuck, which all of us do
All
or
of us
will
do.
at some point, you go back and think of why you ended up doing this kind of work in the first place.
Correct. Refocus on that.
Yeah, I love it. You spent 18 years in that residential setting, correct? Or,
Correct. 18 years.
Okay. What were you thinking as that kid?
As that kid, to be honest, most of the time, what I was thinking was, all right, when's the next ball game?
Yeah.
When's the next, is that girl going to talk to me?
Yep.
It's very much just regular child stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you do deal with a lot of the traumas. And here's one thing that I like house parents and direct care staff to know. Once the child is safe and they feel secure, they will stop and get pensive. And they will start thinking through things. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Let them think through it. They want to think through it. Not every moment is a moment to engage that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to engage that. You don't have to know what they're thinking. When they want to know or they want help, they'll ask.
Yeah.
And they'll start bringing up questions. And they will go to the one who listens, not the one who always has all the answers.
Right.
We go to the one who listens to us. And they might not want you to talk. They may just want to verbalize and get it out. But you'll find a way. You'll learn stuff. And then later you'll be able to meet that child's needs at a level. But that's what I would like everybody to know. What are we thinking? We're thinking the same thing every other kid's thinking. But yes, when we feel safe, we will get pensive. We will start thinking about it, dealing with it, and we will ask if we want help.
Right. So by and large, they just want to be a kid and they want to do kid things.
They're a child. They want to do child things.
At whatever age.
That's exactly right.
And that was your experience as well.
Absolutely.
And I think also what you're describing too is it's kind of a metaphor, analogy, however you want to say it, that I like to use, which is let the game come to you. I tell kids that all the time.
That is a very good analogy. Let the game come to you.
You can't force certain things. They're going to happen when they happen. And your advice for staff is, by and large, the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wait on it.
You can't force a kid to...
Don't force it. They will come to you once they trust you, and they will trust you just because you're there.
Yep.
And you have created the environment for them.
Yep.
Celebrate that.
Yeah.
But don't think you have to have all of the answers. I can remember several house parents, and some of them came with some pretty high degrees, but they always wanted to examine and deal with. And the children know when they're being examined.
Yep.
And to be quite honest, I'll tell you this, we'll make stuff up.
Yeah.
I have literally made up stories to tell a house parent who had that, and then we'll get together and talk about what we said,
right.
The story that we made up. I actually convinced a caseworker one time that our house parent did not feed us supper.
Yeah.
I did it because she kind of had that tilt, and a friend of mine bet me a Coke I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's the whole reason I did it.
Right.
So just be aware of that.
Yeah, and then the kids go back and have their conversation about it, and the adults sit in a team meeting and scratch their heads going, what could I...
What does he mean I wasn't feeding him?
Right.
Oh, and I loved this house parent. She was a great house parent.
Yeah.
But
didn't matter.
It's not all related,
right.
To some significant issue.
Right. Exactly. Yep. I love that. Yeah. Some of it's just good old-fashioned fun.
Some of it's just us.
In fact, most of it, a lot of it, yeah. So if 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 16-year-old you could teach those who cared for you what they needed to know to do the job, what would you tell them?
I think the first thing that I would say is children know what they experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a child to learn something, let that be what that child experiences. I say this all the time. We hear with our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter what you say.
Right.
I'm watching.
Right.
And that's what I experience, and that's what I'm going to learn. So just understand that it's what you do that matters. They know if you love them. They know if you're going to protect them. They know, and they'll come to you. So just understand that they know, we know what we experience. The other thing I like them to know is I know it doesn't seem like this sometimes, but you're not going to have them for that long.
Right. Yeah.
They're not going to be here that long. You have a small amount of time to accomplish what you came here to do to accomplish. And that might help keep some things in perspective. But one of the biggest things, and this is the thing I like to get across to everybody, is you have to understand their success. And that may be a strange way to say that, but let me say this. I get asked all the time, hey, Scene, if we're providing all of these things for the children and you're doing this and they've got all these opportunities and it's opportunity on top of opportunity, why do they go this direction?
Mm-hmm.
Or why maybe do they go back here? And what I like everybody to understand is this. In my own situation, it wasn't good, but I knew it and I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the rules. I knew the people. I knew how to act. I knew how to get what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how to get my needs met. I knew how to run in that system.
Yeah.
What we ask kids to do sometimes without preparing them to do it is we just want them to jump over to the other side of the track because we're handing it to them. And here it is. Don't you want this?
Yeah.
Here's the reality. They don't. And why don't they? They don't know what it's like over there.
Yeah.
They don't understand the rules over there. They don't understand the language over there. People dress different over there. People act different over there. And so if you want to help them move there, make sure they have experiences on that side of the track. I had a very dear family that was very good to me, who took me on a visitation program at least 4 times a year. They took me to nice restaurants. I knew how to cut my own steak, when I was 9 years old. I knew how to eat. I knew how to address people. I knew how to shake hands with people, because they taught me those things. And later, that side of the track was not scary to me anymore.
Right.
I wasn't afraid of it. I had friends over there now. I had a community over there now. But you need to understand, just because this looks golden to you over here does not mean it looks golden to them. Because I'll tell people this all the time. The people over on this side of the track, they're a lot friendlier than the people on this side. And so work the success for them. Give them experience. Give them opportunity. Don't just say, we're going to prepare you. Now go, you can get there. They don't know what there looks like.
Right.
And it's intimidating. The last thing that I would say is get a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You learn how to pick the battles. Not everything is, a super punishable offense. Sometimes you just need to laugh and move on.
Yeah.
Get a sense of humor.
Yeah. And I think kids, I will hear kids say this all the time. He's so serious all the time, or she's so serious. It's just no fun. I don't like being around him, that type of thing. You have to be able to laugh. And how many times can you come back to a story a year later and it's funny at that point, but at the moment when it was happening between staff and kids, it seemed like it was life and death.
It's very serious at the time, but you just hit a very great point. When we have our alumni reunions and we visit with former house parents, we visit with former administrators, the stories we talk about are the stories of bad decision.
Right.
We never talk about all the good things everybody did.
Exactly.
It's not as interesting.
Yeah.
So just get a sense of humor about it and understand.
Yeah.
No, we're good here. This will be a good story one day.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you go light on what you need to do, but let's not mark the child from this point forward.
Right.
As being that child.
Keep perspective too.
Exactly.
The point you made about this life and that life and trying to navigate a life that's unknown, whereas this one is familiar. You know exactly how to. This was your experience.
Correct.
You knew how to navigate it. You get into the new world. And you said you have to experience things in that new world to be able to move along. And I was thinking, and I'm asking you this question, but one of the thoughts I had was, you have to be able to experience failure in the new world and know that it's okay too, right? I mean, you have to be able to make mistakes there.
Listen, that is a fantastic point. When you have experiences over there, especially when you first start doing it, they're going to fall. And so the children need to learn they can get back up over there too. Keep plugging forward. You're going to fall. There's going to be failures. There's going to be all of it's a totally new, different environment. And one other thing that I want to bring, when you talk about success, I'm always real careful with this, is do not define success for the child. Success is that child accomplishing for that child where that child wants to go. It's the child's success, not ours. What you want to do is prepare them with all the options, with the experience on both sides, building it up so the child now has an option. It will be that child's decision to go and do that. But they don't have to become a lawyer to be successful.
Right.
They don't have to become a doctor to be successful. They could become anything as long as it's what they want to do and they're pursuing and they're happy in it. So don't mark it out that, if you're only on this side and you're never on this side, you can't be successful. We're not talking about that kind of a definition of success.
Right.
We're talking about opening options.
Yeah.
And opening opportunities.
Right. And it gets even, I imagine you feel the same way. It gets a little tricky to talk about this side, that side.
It's very tricky.
Again, that gets back into sort of setting up parameters or whatever that you don't really want the kid faced with.
Great point. Yeah. Great point, Scott. When I talk about those, I'm thinking about the mind of the caregiver. We usually think in those terms.
Yes, exactly.
So absolutely great point.
I get where you're coming from. The Lakota world, they call children are considered wakayja, and that's sacred beings, and I really love that. And I don't, I tend to think of that as being a young kid's kind of thing. Our little children are sacred beings, but it's all the way up.
Those
Even
teenagers.
Yeah, even Basil is a Wakanja. An 18-year-old can be a sacred being. The wisdom that you carry from childhood, I think, carries a sacredness for us too. Is there, and yours is informed by a sacred. You talk about your ministry; it's a Baptist
Correct.
ministry, and so that informs it too. I'm just wondering, is there anything else that you might want to try to communicate with the child services program or with the parents with whom we work?
Yes, it's very sacred, and I would say that everybody at St. Joe, you've been called to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the mission field,
Right?
So you are dealing with sacred children. They're precious to God. They're precious, and so understand, no matter how they act to you, you're being successful in your obedience. But we're human. And sometimes that just weighs on us and we take the licks. I would strongly encourage, and I do this for my staff, build a support group. You have to take care of yourself. You can't ever pour from an empty pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you're investing in yourself. If you can put a support group together so you can share with one another the struggles. I read Mike Terrell's book, and that was so great to me because I saw in there, hey, this is the same struggles we have.
Oh, yeah.
Now I have
Yep.
a comrade over here,
Yeah.
and and it encourages me.
Yeah.
And so work that support group to encourage one another and have a place to voice those frustrations. But I would also suggest get a counselor. It's not weakness to have a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
I have a counselor.
Yep.
And use a counselor for yourself to go, and they can build you up, and you can work through these before you need a counselor.
Yeah.
And so for the direct care staff and for all of the staff, I would like to just suggest that hey, don't think you have to be, super child caregiver and you're standing all by yourself. No. Build yourself up so you can you have something to pour
Yeah.
into the children.
Yeah. We've talked a lot in recent podcasts about destigmatizing mental health for the kids.
Absolutely.
So we have 195 kids who are, most of all of them are receiving some type of mental health services.
Correct.
10 master's level counselors, a psychologist, psychiatrist. But I don't want them to feel labeled as a mental health kid. So it's such a good point of get the help before you need it. And the other thing that goes into that is for staff and for parents to do the same thing. Take care of yourself before it's crucial.
Before you need it, absolutely. And I'm so glad y'all are working on remove that stigma.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Nobody is, invincible.
Right.
Take care of yourself so you can do what you were called to do,
Yeah.
and take care of the children.
Yeah. And I think we're fortunate that we get to do that in these sacred settings.
Absolutely.
Where we can pray, we can, offer the traditional culture to these kids and do what we do.
Absolutely.
It's a blessing. Scene, it was great to have you here.
Right.
Visiting Hochoka, of course, but visiting our campus, and you get to talk to all of the kids, which is going to be the highlight of the trip, is visiting with those guys.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And I hope our paths cross again, and we get to talk again.
I hope so, too. Thank you so much, Scott. This was great.
Absolutely. And thank you to our viewers for joining us here in Hochoka at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School campus, where we discuss the issues that are central to Native American education today. Until next time, stay centered.